Hi, my name's Alison Perry and I'm a speech pathologist and owner of Soundality. This is the second video in a series designed for parents and carers of children starting school next year. So the first video I did was about whether or not to teach letter sounds or letter names, and the focus of this video is on something called phonological awareness. So these are the skills that we need to teach our children to be able to work with the letters of the alphabet. So the letters by themselves and knowing the sounds only gets us so far. So we might know that the letter M usually writes down the sound M, and the A writes the A, and the letter P writes the P sound. But being able to do something with those sounds, blend them together to be able to get the whole word, is what we really need to be teaching to help our children to read and spell. So I'm going to tell you a little bit more about what phonological awareness is, and one particular kind of task which is called phonemic awareness. So phonological refers to the spoken sounds and spoken words of our language, and it's something that children will develop to a degree. So we would expect children to fairly naturally develop an ear for words that rhyme, so being able to identify and produce rhyming words. Nursery rhymes, songs, repetitive books with beautiful rhyme and verse in them is a really good way to develop this. We would also expect our children to fairly naturally develop an ability to play with the syllables in words. So these are the big beats. For example, a word like refrigerator is refrigerator, so 5 big beats. But knowing that some words are made of just one beat, so chair, hat, fox, all just have one syllable or one beat in them, but many other words in our language, up to about 80% in fact, have more than one syllable. So playing around with the idea that we can break words up into smaller parts. That gets them ready for these skills we call phonemic awareness. So a phoneme, we're referring to phonemic awareness, a phoneme is an individual, I'm competing with the kookaburras out here. A phoneme is an individual speech sound. So each time our mouth moves, we shape particular sounds. We don't always write these sounds down with one letter. We actually often write sounds down with 2 letters, 3 letters, up to 4 letters. But phonemic awareness and phonological awareness tasks are purely oral, so sound-based, and oral, what we can say and what we can hear. So I'll give you some examples of phonemic awareness tasks. The 2 that I really want you to focus on are the first sound identification, so otherwise called alliteration, the idea that when we say words, they're made of sounds and we can play around with the first sound. Often starting with your child's name is a good place. So my name is Alison, and the first sound in my name is A. So I might look for other words that also start with the sound A. So I could look at A for acrobatic, A for apple, A for ant, but I couldn't have a word like aeroplane because the first sound in aeroplane is E. I also couldn't have the word arm because the first sound in that word is R, written down with the letters A and R together. So we're not thinking about letters for these tasks, it is all based on sounds. So playing around with the first sound in words, talking about other words that have the same sound, really gets your child's ear tuned in to the fact that when we speak in words, and these words are made of individual sounds. This is important when it comes to read, and particularly also when it comes to spell, because our written system is purely a representation of the sounds that we say. It's quite a complex one, and I'll tell you more about that in another video, but it's getting them ready for learning the alphabet and learning how to read and spell when they start school. So alliteration and playing around with the first sound in words is a good place to start. The other one is playing around with the skill of blending. So blending refers to pushing sounds together or joining sounds together to form a whole word. We can start off with developing this skill of blending by using the big chunks, so the syllables in words, playing around with things like, would you like an apple? Oh, sorry, let me try that again. Would you like an apple? Or would you like a banana? You might say something like, okay, would you like to go to the park or to the supermarket. So you can play around with getting your child blending these big parts together, these syllables, to form a word. And then we get a little bit more fine-tuned, and instead of the big bits in the words, we're looking for individual sounds. So we want to start off small and use words that have only 2 or 3 sounds together. So you might play this with some cards, you might have little pictures out on the table, or a variety of objects, and it might even be something you play when your child's getting dressed. You might say, okay, the first thing I want you to put on is your s, o, k. So you're breaking up that word into individual sounds for your child to blend together to get that whole word of sock. Okay, the next thing I want you to put on is your t, o, p to get the word top. So it's about tuning into these finer sounds of our language, individual sounds, blending them together, and this is a really strong skill that will help them when they hit the classroom and need to be blending sounds together to read words in their first little books at home and at school. So I hope that's given you some information about something else you can play around with your child, teaching them those skills of phonemic awareness. So developing the understanding that words are made of sounds and that we can play around with those sounds.